Hello, my name is Daniel. Welcome to my channel. Um, Apologies for the mess behind me. We've had a bit of a ceiling leak again, and well, while we're addressing it, we had to move a bunch of stuff wherever it could go. So if I start getting distracted by the toys around me, you can always, get my attention by just hitting that like button. In this video today, I want to go over the books I've finished this week. Read 4 books, or technically 3 books and this magazine. I don't really know how to classify this. On Goodreads it counts, but it's only 80 pages. But those 80 pages are triple columned. And so therefore this probably has more words than some of the books I own. In any case, this is New Edge magazine. New Edge Sword and Sorcery magazine, excuse me. This magazine is something I started reading. I think I showed it to you in a previous video, and I shared a few of my initial misgivings about it. I was afraid this was going to be like a template swap for various characters we've seen before. So instead of Conan, we have Brunhilde, who's basically just female Conan. That largely has not been the case with this magazine, fortunately. I think I bounced off the first couple of stories. It just happened to be the weakest ones in my opinion. They do improve, and there are some that are actually quite good. One of my favorites being The Vapors of Zinai, and that is by J.M. Clark, and it's a little bit more of the traditional sword and sorcery fare. It has a really cool moment that's illustrated right here. This would be our hero who's wanted, and he's being hunted down by a mage at the beginning of the story. And while this mage is like levitating up to capture him, he just jumps on him and rides his body down a mountain and over a waterfall, which was really, really good. It was really evocative and, just a good opener for a story. The rest, there's hit and miss here. I would say that my biggest criticism, though, of some of these stories is that I don't consider everything in here to be sword and sorcery so much as just generic fantasy. Again, they seem to have their own opinion of what constitutes sword and sorcery. That's fine. We can agree that most of this is sword and sorcery. It's called New Edge magazine because they want to put like a keen new edge on an older genre and sort of file away things like racism and sexism and make it something new for a modern audience. And I think they largely succeed. The stories in here are, like I said, some are better than others, but for issue 0, for the amount you have to pay for this, it's well worth your time. The articles within, again, are a little hit and miss. It's probably the nature of just how this was put together and what the editor had to work with at the time. So there is like a transcript of an interview that happened within a podcast. I could have done without that, mainly just because it's something that you probably enjoy more listening to than reading in the pages of a magazine in an abridged form. But overall, this was a successful book. It did point the way to some characters I had not yet explored in Sword and Sorcery, like Imaro, who's like a black Tarzan. They sort of have introduced you to the concept of a subgenre, which is sword and soul, where you have like pre-colonial Africa being represented in the pages of these kind of stories, and I think that's very interesting. There's also other characters like Jirel of Jori, which I haven't experienced yet, but they are part of the more classic sword and sorcery with a female protagonist. So I want to check those out. Overall, I would say that makes this a success. I don't know if I'll continue with future issues. Right now they have a Kickstarter that they did for the first 2 issues. I don't know of when those will be available to the more generalized public, but depending on the price, I might check it out. The next 2 books I've read are sort of about the same topic. That is the clinical applications of the polyvagal theory, the emergence of the polyvagal in form therapies by Stephen Porges and Deb Dana. And the other is the polyvagal theory in therapy, engaging the rhythm of regulation by Deb Dana. And before I go into that, I'm going to cut over to a little sidebar right here. Hi. So I wasn't terribly satisfied with how I last tried to explain polyvagal theory. Um, it was very new to me, and I don't think I was very adept at explaining it. So I have asked AI to create me sort of an explanation on a level that would be very easy to understand. So we'll see what we come up with.
All right. Imagine you have a teddy bear. Your teddy bear has 3 different modes or ways it can react when it's with you. These modes are like the teddy bear's feelings. Sometimes, your teddy bear feels super safe and happy. It's like when you're playing with your favorite toys, and you feel really comfortable and joyful. Your teddy bear's heart beats calmly, and it's all relaxed, just like when you're having fun and feeling great. But sometimes, your teddy bear might feel a bit scared or upset. Maybe it got dropped or squished, and it doesn't like that. When your teddy bear feels this way, it might start to shake or shiver, and its heart might beat faster, just like when you're scared or upset, and your heart races. Then there's a third mode. When your teddy bear feels really, really scared or overwhelmed, it might just freeze up. It won't move or make a sound. It's like when you're so scared that you can't even move or talk. Now, here's the interesting part about the polyvagal theory. Your teddy bear, like you, has a special way of deciding which mode it should be in. It's like a switch inside your teddy bear's body. When your teddy bear feels safe and happy, the switch is in one position. When it feels scared or upset, the switch moves to another position. And when it's in that frozen mode, the switch is in a different place. This switch inside your teddy bear's body helps it decide how to react in different situations. And just like your teddy bear, you also have a switch inside your body that helps you decide how to react to things around you. It's called the polyvagal theory because it's all about how this switch in your body affects how you feel and act in different situations.
There you have it. Hello again. So, these books were interesting, but I think they overstayed their welcome for me just a little bit. But that might be from my own doing. Let me explain. Like I said, the first one I have read was The Clinical Applications of the Polyvagal Theory. This book is like a compendium of a bunch of articles written by clinicians about how they incorporate the polyvagal theory into their practice. This is quite good if you're a clinician who wants to apply these techniques yourself. You get a wide variety of things, anywhere from prenatal care to veterinarian practices. Like it really covers a wide scope. Um, the downside is because a bunch of writers are writing about the same topic, you get a lot of repetition in the preamble about what polyvagal theory is and how it relates, and it can get quite repetitive. And I think that's where it really started grating on me, because it's not a short book, and you're just a good chunk of it you're just getting recycled over and over again. So if you were to read this, I would not use it as your introduction to the subject. They try to do a little bit of explanation at the beginning, but it's a way more technical for the layman than I would like. And then if you're going to read it, this is something you kind of want to parse out over time. I think you'll get a lot more out of it. Um, Again, due to the way I got these from the library, I should have really started with the polyvagal theory in therapy, which is a much more introductory book about the topic. This book is short and concise and could whet your appetite for learning more and then moving on to the clinical applications of the polyvagal theory. I would say the biggest con of this book is if you've read the clinical applications of polyvagal theory, any of the techniques you'll learn in this book feel a little uninspired. The last book I read was a really good one, and that is Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bastarrica. This is a book where a virus has supposedly tainted all of the animals on Earth, so people have to resort to consuming human flesh. Human livestock is bred and genetically modified throughout the course of the book to be, grow faster and be tastier. And we get to see the meat industry through the lens of a man who works at one of the slaughterhouses. that processes the meats, the people. See, I'm already becoming desensitized. The pros of this book were it was very pulpy and well written. There's a lot of gratuitous violence, so if you're into that, this book is really fun and satisfying. And it does have a great ending, I think. Maybe a little telegraphed in the final scenes, but the way it comes together is still very satisfying. I say the only cons, and it's kind of okay because of the pulpy nature of the story, is that it's extremely unbelievable in portions. It's well written, but it's unbelievable. Within one generation, you're not going to convince the entire world to get on board with cannibalism. Um, they come up with like scientific reasons, like, oh well, this was pushed by the big scientists saying, well, you can't, live vegetarian. Like we don't have like millions of examples of people doing that already. But they're like, well, you're not getting all of the amino acids from the proteins that you're getting in plant protein, as if eating two different plants has really never occurred to the scientists. There's a few holes in the plot, but overall, that wasn't the point of the book. It wasn't meant to be believable. There is something that really did make me laugh though, and that was the idea that the government was getting in bed with Big Umbrella, and like they were advising that wearing umbrellas everywhere or carrying umbrellas everywhere was necessary because if a bird pooped on you, you could get the virus. So like it was like this whole conspiracy in the book where like the main character's sister is trying to get him to carry an umbrella. You won't be safe without an umbrella. So anyway, this book was not nearly as disturbing as people were saying on Booktube and elsewhere online. This book does seem to be beloved, but if you're already familiar or have participated in the slaughtering of animals for food, you're not really gonna see anything new or different here. Like I've had personal experience with making your own food from living animals, and like it's not that repulsive to me anyway. Your mileage may vary on that, but for someone like me, like I've grown up around it enough where okay, yep, and converting that to a human, I'm like, well, I can see where you do that and where you do that. I don't know. It wasn't disturbing to me. Maybe if that is something that is naturally abhorrent to you, then this would just be so much worse. And you know what? More power to you, because the book is probably way more powerful. There was one section where they were talking about the cry of pigs as they're being slaughtered early on in the book, and that really resonated with me. I had spent a small amount of time in Haiti, and where I had been staying, it was right next to a slaughterhouse. So every morning at 5 a.m., my alarm clock would be the death screams of pigs. And that is a unique sound that just sticks with you. So that was brought up in the book, and that brought me in. That was my in. I'm like, oh, I know what this sounds like, and yeah, I can see why they'd remove the vocal cords of humans when they were processing them once they converted through the change of going from animals to Soylent Green. So it was a good book. I recommend it, but again, is it super disturbing? I don't think so, but it was fun. Finally, what I'm currently reading. This is something I've found on another booktuber's channel, Frodo, and it is kind of occult detective-y. So, I haven't gotten through any occult detective books yet. This will technically be my first for the month. That is Sherlock Holmes versus Dracula. Before seeing it on Frodo's channel, I didn't know this was a thing that existed. It's by John Watson, but really it's by Lauren Estelman. Uh, it's fun so far. It seems to be pretty fast paced. It's the story of Dracula, and Sherlock Holmes is sort of investigating from the point where the ship comes into the harbor and is empty except for the captain who's lashed to the wheel. So So far it's fun, but like I don't really have anything else to report on it yet. So anyway, what are you guys reading? I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you around. Bye.